Minutes of the last meeting have been on the table before you for the last 30 minutes. Are you happy that I sign them as a true record? Very good, thank you very much. Fiona, any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. I've had apologies from Councillors Stephen Reynolds, Bob Upton and Liz Wheatley.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest.
Just a declaration from yourself in relation to item B2 as you're the agent for the application.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the public?
None, Chairman.
And I know there are no relevant updates because I asked that question about an hour ago. So we move on to applications for planning permission. Should site inspections be necessary, they will be held on Monday the 8th of January 2018. A Happy New Year to everybody, at a time to be agreed. So the first item for consideration is item B1, reference WA 2017-1609, and the proposal is the approval of reserve matters, appearance, landscaping, layout and scale, following the outline approval of WA 2014-0932, approval in part for the erection of 7 dwellings as amended by plans received on the 7th of November 2017 and the 9th of November 2017 at Site B of 83 dwellings approved at outline at land at Oxford Ridge, Godalming. Rebecca, would you like to introduce the application?
Thank you, Chairman. The site is located to the southwest of Oxford Ridge and it comprises 14 dwellings which are set within a cul-de-sac. The site is known as Site B within the wider redevelopment of Oxford Ridge, and the different areas of the wider redevelopment can be seen on the right-hand side. The images currently on screen show the existing dwellings on site. They comprise a mixture of semi-detached and terraced dwellings. The existing site layout can be seen on the left-hand side of the screen. Outline permission was granted under a 2014 application for the erection of 17 dwellings with access approved off Oxford Ridge. The proposed layout for the 17 dwellings is shown on the right-hand side of the screen, and as set out, the current application seeks approval for the reserved matters of layout, scale, appearance and landscaping. Looking at the layout and landscaping in more detail, the 17 dwellings would all be affordable and they would be provided in the form of 15 houses and 2 flats. The 15 houses would include 11 2-beds and 4 3-beds, and the 2 flats would comprise 1 1-bed and 1 2-bed. The dwellings would be 2-storey in height with some single-storey elements, and the overall maximum height would be 8 metres. There would be a mixture of detached, semi-detached, terraced and apartment buildings. Parking would be provided in a mixture of on-site driveways and bay parking. A total of 35 parking spaces would be provided, which would accord with the Council's parking guidelines. Soft landscaping would be incorporated into the scheme in the form of planting beds adjacent to the dwellings, flats and parking areas. The bay parking areas themselves would be separated through the planting of trees, and there would be grassed amenity spaces to serve each of the dwellings proposed. Hard surface areas would include tarmac to the road, the parking areas and pavements. Fencing within the site would include a mixture of close-boarded fences around the perimeter of plots and chain link fencing to separate the private garden spaces. Space for the storage of bins for each dwelling would be provided within the private amenity areas. In terms of design and appearance, the dwellings would feature a range of roof forms, footprints, elevational detailing and materials. A mixture of red and buff brickwork would be incorporated into the scheme, along with areas of timber effect cladding. The elevations would include pitch roofs, gable projections, brick detailing and single-storey elements. The varying design, materials and appearance can be seen in the following 2 perspective drawings, and this first slide shows effectively a bird's eye view of the proposed dwellings. The following slide shows viewpoints within the site. As previously advised, the principle of development was agreed at the outline stage. Officers consider that the size, height, bulk, mass and design of the proposed dwellings would be acceptable, and the dwellings would integrate well within the neighbouring residential development. Subject to the imposition of conditions, no concern is raised with regard to the impact on neighbours, trees or highway matters. The determinant issues are set out on screen. The matters of judgment are the design and impact on visual amenity, excuse me, and the impact on residential amenity. If I could turn members' attention to the update sheet, members will see that no further letters of representation have been received and conditions have been recommended by the County Highway Authority and the Council's Environmental Health Officer. The recommendation is therefore as set out on the update sheet. If you just bear with me. That is, that subject to conditions 2 to 12, as set out on pages 31 to 34 of the agenda report, amended condition number 1 and additional conditions 13 to 15, as set out on the update sheet, informatives 1 to 8, as set out on pages 35 to 36 of the agenda report, and additional informatives 9 to 11, as set out on the update sheet, that permission be granted. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, members. And Councillor Bolton.
Thank you, Chairman. As the local councillor, I would like to support this application. I would just like to remind members that there are 4 sites in Oxford Ridge which are going to be developed. We've already approved sites D and A. This is now site B, and we look forward to an application for site C. I believe that there's a good mix of property here, and I note that there has been plenty of consultation with local residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. Could the officers show me on that map where the close board fences around the perimeter of each dwelling and where the chain link fencing, because if it goes around the perimeter, I can't see where the chain link fence is going to go.
Yes, feel free.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. If I just point out, hopefully you
On
can
just
see where the
one.
mouse is.
Yeah.
So, particularly where the terraced units are proposed, to demarcate the individual private amenity spaces, there would be chain link fencing between there. But say, for example, on the outside, so here where it would be adjacent to the drive, that would be close boarded fencing. So similarly here, that would be chain link fencing, and here, but then along the side here, that would be close boarded fencing. So we're in terms of visible viewpoints from public vantage points, so from the roadside, you would see close boarded fencing, and then internally within the plots, there would be chain link fencing. I hope that's set out.
Of course.
Is it really appropriate in this day and age to have, I presume it's only low or whatever height this chain link fencing is that what we do on our own properties? Because if it was a private house, they would have, 1 point something metre fencing between it. Are we still really putting old-fashioned chain link fencing up on what used to be like a council estate? I'm surprised.
Okay, Rebecca, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. There are examples of chain link fencing within Godalming and certainly within the borough. What I would add, we've recommended a condition number 11 that would secure the boundary treatments to be provided in accordance with the approved plans unless otherwise first agreed in writing. If this was something that members felt strongly about, perhaps that could be conveyed to the applicant's Waverley Borough Council Housing Department. I'll leave that with members to decide. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Rebecca. Councillor Martin, Senior.
Thank you. This looks a very well thought out proposition. In my view, we've already given the outline planning. This is mostly fairly straightforward. The level of objections is negligible, if non-existent, as far as I can see. And I agree with Councillor Bolton. I think we've done all the right things. So, in my view, there is no reason at all why we should not proceed and agree to the proposition, to the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree with you and Councillor Bolton. I think this whole redevelopment of this area is a credit to Waverley Borough Council. It's a pity that we've had to lose those arts and crafts type houses, but they were past their sell-by date, unfortunately.
Thank you, Jeremy. Just looking at it, it's like a Christmas jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? We had a little bit of it, and we've been shown some previous pieces in the past. We don't know what's going to go in the bits that are left out, but presumably they're all privately owned dwellings now. Am I making an assumption, a wrong assumption? And they will fit in nicely with their neighbours, their new neighbours.
Very good. Councillor Bolton, you'd like to come back.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to remind people, yes, there are private dwellings on the estate, but there are many other dwellings which are not being replaced, but they are being refurbished. And I'm confident that in the fullness of time, I regret it may be a little while, there will be a collection of wonderful houses.
Thank you. Councillor Holder.
Thank you, Chairman. We all went round on the site visit and had a look at the area, and I entirely agree with Councillor Martin Senior. I think this is an excellent design. We desperately need council houses in this borough, and I think we should go straight to recommendation.
Thank you. Would anybody argue with that? Anybody like to speak before we do go to the recommendation? Okay, the revised recommendation as detailed on the update sheet is that subject to conditions 2 to 12 as set out on pages 31 to 34 of the agenda report, amended condition 1 and additional conditions 13 to 15 as set out on the update sheet, informatives 1 to 8 as set out on pages 35 to 36 of the agenda report, and additional informatives 9 to 11 as set out on the update sheet, permission be granted. All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
That's unanimous and permission is granted, at which point I will bid you good night and hand over to Councillor Byam.
Thank you, members. Now we move on to item B2, which is WA 2017-1969, the proposal for the construction of a rear dormer window at 2 Chapel Cottages, Milford Road, Elsted. And the case of is Alex. Would you like to give your presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. So the site is at 2 Chapel Cottages, Milford Road. It measures 0.3 hectares and is on the corner of Springfield Road and Milford Road. The site currently features a semi-detached maisonette benefiting from a small amenity area to the west and south, and a private driveway for parking for 1 car. The existing dwelling has a current ridge height of 5.9 metres, with eaves at 4.15 and 2.35 at the base of the cat slide roof. The existing floor plans show 2 bedrooms at the first floor level and a small bathroom at ground floor level. The proposed dormer window would be built in the western elevation, featuring a pitched roof. It would have a width of up to 3.2 metres and a height of 2.7 metres. It would be set down from the ridge by 0.6 metres and set up by 0.7 metres, and the window is to be obscurely glazed. These proposed floor plans show the proposed first floor toilet and shower room, having a total floor space of 4.75 metres squared. That's just over that side. I know it's not that clear. This indicates the cross sections along the lines AA and BB as detailed in the previous slides, which I'll just show you briefly. So from here to here. That's A, and then B through here. I think that's cool. These site photographs, the top left and bottom right photos show the western elevation of 1 and 2 chapel cottages and the location of the proposed dormer. The top right photo shows the southern elevation and the bottom left shows the eastern elevation of the property. And these photos, the top left shows the view over the road of the adjacent cottages. So that's me, that's from standing in the garden. The top right and the bottom left show the western elevation of chapel cottages as seen from the main roads. So the determined issues, so the matters of judgment, so the impact on the green belt, design and the impact on visual amenity, area of standing natural beauty and the area of great landscape value, and the impact on the residential amenity. I'll turn the members' attention to the update sheet, which you should have, which details 1 letter of objection and 1 additional representation from Elstead Parish Council. And the revised recommendation that subject to conditions, permission be granted.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any comments to make? Bearing in mind the extra comments on the update sheet. Councillor Holder.
Hey, Chairman, I'm just slightly puzzled. If this is a shower room to be put into a dormer, where is the hot water tank or the tanks for this? It doesn't seem to have any, and I'm just slightly amused by it.
They're moving into the 21st century now, and they don't have such things. It's
don't need them anymore.
A new thing for me, but yes.
Sorry, I've been advised they don't need them now. It's the 21st century.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Yes, it's very nice to be able to get rid of cold water tanks and hot water tanks. The extra space is terrific. This looks a very modest thing. I understand the feeling from the photographs about putting a dormer in, but it's quite a small dormer. It'll unbalance the place. But who knows, in the fullness of time, the next door neighbour will surely want to do the same thing, because the improvement, I mean, this is modern day living. We need the amenity, and an upstairs toilet would seem to me to be something which is needed and is reasonable, and the size of the extension here is really quite modest, and I think it's a question of some judgment as to whether you like it or not. In many ways I'd prefer to leave it just as it is, but I think we have to be reasonable, and it seems to me reasonable to say yes to this, and I would propose that we accept the recommendation of our officers.
That's all in favour.
And that concludes the meeting. Thank you for a little debate for me. It gives me a little bit of practice when the chairman leaves the room.